This is the Infinite Receiving Podcast, helping conscious leaders tap into a wealth of abundance across all areas of your life and business. I'm Susie Ashworth, and I'll be sharing with you how you can upgrade your reality through quantum transformation, because you are ready for infinite receiving. Hello, gorgeous. I am excited to introduce you to Emma Howarth in this interview. Emma is the author of A Year of Mystical Thinking, and she has written a book of the same name where she goes on, I suppose, her spiritual exploration, where she samples something different every single month and then writes about her experience. And in this interview, we talk about what led her to needing, actually, it was a need for this journey and the breakthroughs that she had. I think the biggest thing that I personally take from this is our willingness to be open, stay curious, and look to see what other alternatives there are. So anyway, enough of me. Let's get back to you. If you love this episode, please share it with a friend. Don't forget, I have all of these guest episodes going up in celebration of the launch of the Infinite Receiving book, which is available now on pre-sale. And if you sign up, then you also get 30 days access to my brand new members club, The Gateway, alongside live coaching with me in the Infinite Receiving program. I mean, what is there not to love about this episode already? Okay, take it easy, and I will see you on the other side. Hello, you gorgeous human being. It is Susie Ashworth, and you are listening to the Infinite Receiving podcast. I feel like that podcast is like
I love that you're singing.
And I've spoiled the surprise. I was like, my podcast like vocals were a little bit off there, and my guest started laughing. That's how poor it was.
Really
But here we go. We are starting. I've got a feeling that there might be a few giggles today. I am excited to be introducing you to the amazing Emma Howarth, who is the author of A Year of Mystical Thinking and resident astrologer for Glamour magazine, and now, as we were just having a little chat before, Marie Claire Korea, as in South Korea. I feel like I also want to let you in on that joke, because when Emma told me that she just finished an article and said that she was writing for Marie Claire Career, I thought it was Marie Claire Career, as in job. And she was like, everybody says that. So we are we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and making it clear that it is Marie Claire Career South, obviously. So this is where we're starting. Emma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Susie. It's nice to be here talking to you.
I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I feel like I also want to share with our listeners the fact that we kind of had a little connection yesterday, and I was like, I'm going to ask you this and this and this, and then we both came on, and that was like, I can't remember anything that I said that I was going to ask you. So we're going off the cuff, and I feel that that's always the best way to be. So we're going to flow. We're going to tune into our magic.
I'm not sure if it's the best way to be, but you've told me it's going to be fine.
We are going to trust in the universe. So A Year of Mystical Thinking is your book, and your mission is to help everyday people experience more magic?
Yes. Also just... it's to help people find magic in the everyday as well. So it's like, basically, I don't know, if you kind of think about the kind of mystical spiritual world, the Instagrammable version of it, and it all looks so perfect, and there's always a sunset and a perfect yoga pose in front of the sunset silhouetted magnificently. Or there's like a moon ritual with like 100 candles and massive crystals. And I think I didn't really see my life reflected in that world sometimes, where it all looks so perfect. So my kind of mission was, how can you find magic in the mundane? How can you turn routines into rituals? How can you make the life that you're already in magical? Because that's where we all need to start.
I am curious, whenever I speak to people, and also whenever I reflect on my own life, you have the benefit of hindsight. And in hindsight, everything, you're like, oh, of course, like that step was leading me here, that thing happened, this was perfect. Like whenever you look back, it's like everything always unfolds for the greater good, and I can absolutely see why I needed to go through that shit. I am curious, when you go back to the beginning, so like the first 10 years of your life, are there any moments that stand out to you that absolutely, when you look back, are now like, oh, of course I would end up with this being what I do and this being what I want to share with the world? Were there any clues?
Yeah, there probably were clues in the sense that, but I don't think it makes me particularly special, in that I think all children are kind of magical beings, basically. So, they're all kind of believers, and their imaginations are on fire. And I was the kid who was like stirring up the potions at the bottom of the garden. So I guess, I was a natural born witch.
Yeah.
It was always going to happen. I was always going to be drawn towards, the mysterious and the magical and the numinous. So I guess so, yeah. But I don't necessarily think that's unique to me. I think that's something that we probably all have in us, and life stamps it out of us slowly as we get older.
It's interesting. I don't know whether I 100% agree that we all have it in us. Because I think I was chatting to another lady yesterday, she's a choreographer, and she was saying that how when she hears music, she sees visuals. And she thought that everybody, when they heard music, saw visuals. And then when she was speaking to people, she was like, oh, no, that is actually, it's kind of my thing. And she's met a few other people that have that experience. And I think that when something comes naturally to us, it's really easy to be like, oh, kind of everybody has this. But I don't know if it's true that necessarily everybody is at the bottom of the garden.
You might be right, actually, because actually I've had that experience with a few things. Like when I first heard about the concept of lucid dreaming, I was like, but I've always done that. Like,
I've never done that.
That's a thing you're meant to try and do? Like, of course you can be in your dream and know you're in a dream.
Yeah.
I had no idea that everyone didn't do that every night.
No, and I've tried. My friend Charlie Morley, he does workshops. I've bought his books.
I know Charlie.
I've tried to do it, and I still know when I'm in the dream, I'm in the dream. When I wake up from the dream, I suffer from the fact that I've been in the dream. Like if you've had a stressful dream, like I'll wake up and be like, that was a dream, but it felt really real, but I can't do anything whilst I'm in it.
Did you ever go back to sleep and go back into the dream and finish it with the ending you wanted?
Never. Not with the ending I wanted. Sometimes finish it, but never with the ending I wanted. So
I'm good at finishing it with the ending I want.
Because you are a magical being.
Yeah, so I guess maybe you're right. Maybe it is something different. I don't know.
I do believe that everybody has access to their own unique blend of magic, though. And I am curious, like you said, that for many people, the thing that makes them magic, at least when they're a kid, often gets stamped out of them. And so I'm curious for your kind of older years, kind of going into teenage and early 20s, were you on the magical vibe? Like, what did life look like for you then?
I think I got sort of quite. It's hard to say. I guess I probably always was a bit on the magical vibe. Like I was a sort of a teenage tarot card reader, and all my friends would come round to my bedroom, like would get the cards out, and I was always into astrology, so I was always the person that knew when it was a full moon or a new moon. So that's definitely always been there. But I do think I kind of got distracted by the conveyor belt of life, feels like a good way to put it. So I got quite distracted in my 20s by the idea that I needed to achieve certain things and tick certain boxes, which I think, again, probably happens to most people. And just kind of got sucked into this, well, the next step is obviously I need to get the next job, and then the next job, and then I need to be more successful, and then I need to do a course, and then I need to get engaged, and I need to get married, and I've got to have children by a certain age. And I'm not saying none of that wasn't all magical, because a lot of those things were some of the most magical things that I've done. But I think that maybe took away those tarot cards. Basically, they stayed in a box and got moved around houses for about a decade before I got them out again.
Who taught you how to read tarot?
No one.
See, this is not normal. I do remember my mum having tarot cards when I was younger, and I remember looking at them and maybe even playing with them like once or twice, and then thinking, I think I'd much rather play rummy, and I'm going to put these cards away and just, So that is unusual. Can you remember the first time you saw a deck?
Yeah, I was given a deck by my friends, my teenage coven, for my 14th birthday. Yeah, that was the deck. I've still got the deck that I was given, and I didn't sort of instantly know how to read them, but I think I instantly had an intuitive sense of what the pictures meant.
Yeah.
And then I kind of read the book a bit, and I just found that I could do it. And once you understand the numerology of tarot, it is a lot easier to do.
Were you giving readings that actually were meaningful? Or at what point did you start giving readings that were meaningful? I
think they're always meaningful. A lot of it is with tarot. It's not like predicting the future or anything like that. It's just guidance, and a lot of it, really, being a good tarot reader just comes from being intuitive and being able to tap into what someone needs to talk about and take cues from what they're saying and sort of help them to use the message that the card's giving them and translate it into something that's meaningful for them. So I think I could always do that. I could probably do that without the cards, though, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked with a lady for quite a long time, and she said that she uses angel cards, and she likes her angel cards because that's just her tool. But ultimately, she doesn't need, nobody really needs anything external.
No, it's nice to have tools. They add ritual to it, don't they, basically?
So I'm curious about the path that was almost a distraction when it comes to the work and the achievement. What direction were you going in at that stage?
Well, actually, it wasn't really a distraction because it was always writing. It was always journalism. I've never had a job that wasn't writing. So,
okay. And
that's always been my thing. I always say that, this makes it sound too easy, and writing isn't easy. We need to, that, I know that, we've both written books. But I don't really know exactly what I'm going to say until I see it on the page. Writing is how I make sense of the world. And I don't want to say it feels channeled because that makes it sound so easy. But sometimes it does feel like, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen when I'm writing. And it is a bit like magic. So, yeah, I've always been in that on the writing path, definitely.
Can I just ask you, how is that different for you than talking?
I find writing a lot easier. I'm much better on the page, definitely. Yeah, some people are better in real life. I'm better if you read something I've written in an article.
Why is that? What is that?
I don't actually know the answer to that, but I suspect it's partly just because I am a massive introvert. So I'd rather express myself thoughtfully and carefully and think things through than I would just be off the cuff in a conversation. Obviously, the world I now live in and the world we all now live in means we need to be able to have these off-the-cuff conversations. But yeah, I'm definitely better written down.
Got it. When did astrology and tarot come back into your life?
So this actually is something that one of the key scenes in a year of mystical thinking is when I'm like unpacking the boxes in the basement, I don't know, looking for something amid the chaos of a house move. And I find the tarot cards, and that was kind of one of the light bulb moments that sort of set me off on my year of mystical adventures, basically. So in a year of mystical thinking, I have a terrible year in 2017, and then in 2018, I'm like, right, I'm looking for something. I need something. There's something. I need to make something happen. I need to find some magic. I need to make my life better. And when I find the tarot cards, it's like a ping, and I remember this, something that someone told me once, which is when you lose your way in life, look back to what lit you up when you were younger. And when I found the tarot cards, I was like, well, that's what lit me up when I was younger. So I decided pretty much there and then in my basement. I think in the book I'm like between a broken cot bed and an unused wedding fondue set. I made the decision that I would either discover or rediscover a different mystical or spiritual practice every month for a year in a bid to make my life better. So yeah, that's what happened. I've totally forgotten what the question was now.
Can you tell me what I asked you? When did you rediscover tarot?
Oh yeah, so that was the beginning of the rediscovery.
Yeah,
really the major rediscovery started then in 2018.
But tell me about 2017. What was going on in your life? For those of you, as I asked that question.
I mean, you can read the book.
Emma's nostrils flared and her eyes went really wide. You should all get the book, and as a little preview, what?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was nothing. You know, it was lots of things and one particularly bad thing. So just like a pile up of things. You know, we'd moved house, kids had had to move schools. You know, our house is a building site. Like we'd moved somewhere I felt like I didn't fit in. I'd left all my friends behind. I was miles away from my family. I was like really questioning like what we were doing, why we were in the place that we'd moved to. And I think I just felt really lonely and lost and, you know, really stressed out with work stuff. And my husband had just started this really big consultant job, so he wasn't really around that much. And it was like a big pile up, you know, no one thing. And well, there was one thing, but there was no one thing, but it was already a big pile up of stuff. And then my husband's father died. And I think that was just like a sort of crumbling, like then the whole thing came crashing down. And suddenly we were just in this slightly crazy, grieving, sad world. And yeah, that was 2017 for us. And it was really difficult, you know, on a sort of family level. It was quite difficult supporting someone going through that experience. And with all the other stuff, it was just all too much. And I think by the end of it, I was just broken, exhausted, couldn't really hack it anymore. And that's why I started the project that eventually became the book. And it's important to note that I never sort of set out for it to be a book. It was genuinely like I need to sort myself out and make myself feel better. And I had like a little blog about it and an Instagram account, but I didn't kind of start it thinking, oh, this will be a book one day.
How quickly did you start to see an improvement in the way that you felt?
I would say almost instantly, because, you know, I just suddenly started to see the world differently just by, you know, once you kind of look for the magic in the world, you find it. So it didn't take long. I think by the end of January, I was like, oh, everything's amazing and the sky's so blue. It was probably pretty annoying. But, you know, also life went up and down. So, you know, through the book, there were bits where I'm like, this isn't working after all. You know, by March, I'm like, actually, now I've just got a mystical to-do list as well as the life to-do list. And what am I even doing? What's the point of it? And I kind of, you know, go up and down throughout the year and eventually come out the other side.
Was there any other intention other than I want to feel better. And I ask that from the perspective of, this is obvious, it's a year of mystical thinking. And so you're really tapping into spirituality. Had you lost, I'm doing inverted commas, lost your spirituality up until that point? Had you still been, I'm interested in that piece.
Yeah, I think I had lost it a bit. I think that's really what it stemmed from, a sort of, this kind of sort of unraveling and being somewhere where I didn't really feel that connected, didn't really feel that rooted. I didn't feel like I had met anyone who was like me. And and the sort of the whole work stress thing, I think I just kind of, I think I had lost that sort of magical side of me a little bit. It had become quite hidden. And this, was my way of reconnecting with that.
And is the magic just about you, or, because you said the sky is so blue, like the connection with something, God, universe, spirit, source, something bigger than you? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, definitely sort of connecting with the sort of sense that there's a universe, that might be on your side. I think definitely believing in something bigger. Also, for me, a really big thing was just like the sort of restorative power of the natural world, just, being out in nature and really like slowing down and connecting to the seasons. And a lot of it is connecting to old wisdom as well. So, the modern world and modern life is really full on and hectic and chaotic. And by connecting to things like the sort of, the celebrations of the wheel of the year and, nature, trees, sea swimming, sky, the stars, the moon, I, found myself a lot more grounded and able to see the beauty in small things, which sounds very simple and is very simple, but it's very easy to lose sight of that when you're, at breaking point.
Why is it important? Why does it change things when we are able to see the beauty in small things?
I think it just makes you realize you're just you're part of something bigger, and that the magic of life is out there. That's kind of what I get from seeing the beauty in small things. Just the magic of knowing that you're connected to everything.
I think for me, you used the words, you said feeling ungrounded and feeling unrooted, like with the move. And there's something, it's really easy for me personally to be very single-minded and very focused about what it is that I'm creating and the impact and purpose and activating this number of people and this workshop, and all of those things are important to me. And those things, having that kind of drive and desire to make a difference, I think is really important. And there is something that is so exquisite that happens when I'm able to tune into the things that I do not need to buy, the things that are here, either around me or naturally just come through me. So like if I go for an incredible breathwork session and I release anger, pain, rage, whatever it is, I move, what comes through me is the radiance of life, that feeling of aliveness. And it's the same if like I walk through the woods and it's very, very quiet, and all you can hear is like the breeze, like moving the leaves on the trees. There's something that is exquisite. And I suppose it's what you said, it's I feel connected, and it's very easy to miss or forget the connection when I'm single-mindedly going for whatever it is that I've decided is important for that day.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way of putting it.
And I think what it brings up is another whole contemplation for me around, like, what is it, when we miss those small things, what does it cost us? What is it costing us to miss the small things in favour of the to-do list and the things that we've decided are important. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think the cost can be huge. Like, when I think back to certain parts of my life, like I can remember like not noticing what season it was. Like, do you remember that ever from parts of your life? Like, I just sort of from like autumn, like, you know, I think when I had children particularly, I was like suddenly seasons, I really noticed them. And that was a really powerful way of connecting to the cycle of life. And like, I think, which is another thing that I think really helps when you're trying to, you know, bring yourself back into this connected understanding that you're part of something bigger, finding magic in life, is this idea that it doesn't have to all be like up and glowing and perfect and wonderful all the time. And that's something that I think that the seasons teach us and that the moon teaches us as well.
Talk to me about the moon. I am one of these people that I feel people think that I'm really into the moon. When I came back from retreat, I was in Costa Rica last week. I fell in love with the moon. The moon was like a slightly orangey. It was, I don't know whether you call it a waning moon or... See, this is the thing. I don't really know about the moon, but it's like it was a half moon. It was slightly orangey, and I felt like she was looking at me. I was really like... I couldn't shut the curtains because it was, you're not allowed to shut the curtains. That's how it felt. And I was like, this is a thing. But I usually only know that it's a full moon when I look at Instagram and everyone's like, okay, full moon ritual tonight. Oh, or new moon ritual. Like, I'm not that into her. And so I'm very interested about your relationship with the moon.
Well, what I like about sort of learning to understand the phases of the moon and get really in touch with that is that it is incredibly accessible. So it's something that anybody can do. You don't need to have lots of time or lots of money to get in tune with the moon. All you need to do is basically, look out for those Instagram posts that tell you it's the full moon, it's the new moon. And what I really like about the cycle of the moon is just this idea that when it's a new moon, so that's when the moon is dark, that's when we can't see it, it's the best time to see the stars, that's the time to kind of set your intentions for the months ahead. And when I found out about that, I was like, this is amazing. This is basically like a mini monthly new year. Like, why did no one tell me about this before? Because who wants to make, you know, all their New Year's resolutions in January, in that cold January basket, when you could just be doing it every month? And so I found that really inspiring and motivating. And then, you know, as the moon waxes, so that's when the illumination grows. So as you go, so it takes 2 weeks for the full moon after the new moon. That's the stage where you should be like, you know, making things happen and putting your plans into action. And then the full moon really is like a kind of magical manifestation time. Like, I don't think you need to be mystically minded to understand the power of a full moon. You experienced it for yourself just recently. And then as that illumination fades, that's like rest, retreat, reconsider as you get back to the new moon again. And what I love about that is just like a really handy reminder that life goes in cycles and you don't have to be the big, bright, glowing full moon all the time. You don't always have to be making plans and making stuff happen. Like, it is okay for there to be downtime. And I think a lot of people don't realize it's okay for there to be downtime. Certainly a lot of people I know are just like, go, go, go. What's next on the list? When actually those periods of quiet introspection, rest are really important.
Is that the magic? Is that the magic of the moon? The reminder that it gets to be a cycle, or is there something else?
I mean, for me, that's what I find the most useful.
Is that the magic of the moon?
Well, I think that's my magic of the moon. Like, that's what I've taken for me. Obviously, there's a lot more to kind of moon magic that you can connect with. Like, if you begin to understand what astrological sign the full moon is in and what astrological sign the new moon is in, and then actually the moon changes signs every 2 days. So you can, if you want to get really into it, you can like, okay, so when the moon's in, say, Gemini, that would be a better vibe for a party. So let's have the party on Thursday because the moon's in Gemini. Or, you know, or Leo's quite good for a party, or, you know, I want to take a day off work and really relax. Maybe I'll do it while the moon's in Pisces, because that's all about relaxation. I mean, you can get really into it.
Okay, I feel like I've just had a little bit of a mind fart just happened there. I did not realise that the moon changes signs every 2 days. That is kind of wild to me. Like, I'm curious, how much time do you spend in astrology and looking at astrology?
I mean, obviously, because it's become part of my work quite a lot, but I'm not obsessive about it. Like, you know, I'm not like checking the astrology of every day. I'm definitely not doing that, because I think you could go a bit mad if you got really, really intense about it in that way. And I know a lot of astrologers are very intense about it, and they are looking at everything every day. And you know, I think that's just a bit much for me. I think I've got the kind of personality who just be like, can't make any decisions. But yeah, you know, I'm spending a good day a week really deep in the astrological world, I guess. And then the rest of it, I'm just kind of aware of what's happening. If something big's happening, I'll have a sense of awareness about that and what that means for my sign. Well, actually not. The other thing that's good to know, I'm going to go slightly off topic, but one thing that I think is really useful to know, if you don't know that much about astrology, is when you're reading a horoscope, really the best thing you can do is read for your rising sign, not your sun sign, because...
Okay, so let's talk about rising signs and sun signs, because I do not know what these are. I do think I have got 2 Scorpios in my chart.
Okay. Yeah.
Which makes sense, because I think that personality-wise I'm probably more Scorpio than what I am, which is a Libra. But I don't actually know what any of this means.
Well, this is another thing. You can definitely read a very simplified version of how to understand all this stuff in my book. And also I have written a few articles for Glamour about how to understand your birth chart. But the simple things are your sun sign. So that's your star sign that everyone already knows, the one you probably already identify with a bit. So for me, that's Pisces. That is kind of your core essence, like where you shine in life. So for you as a Libra, you're probably very good at like keeping the peace and bringing people together and seeing both sides of the story. And then your rising sign is more like your kind of public self. It's the you that you're presenting to the world. It's what other people see. And then your moon sign is your Scorpio. Yeah, you have Scorpio vibes. I always love Scorpios. And then moon sign is more like your inner self and what you need to feel safe and secure in life. And I think once you kind of, you can look this up, like you can literally just go onto astro.com or AstroSeek and find out what these are, as long as you know your date, time, place of birth. And yeah, it can be really quite enlightening to just put together that picture. Just those 3, like you don't have to get into the whole of the birth chart thing, but those 3 can be really insightful.
How important is knowing your time of birth?
Well, the time of birth is actually pretty important for your rising sign, which horoscopes are kind of written for rising signs, really. I mean, you can still read them you can still read it for your sun sign. I read Pisces and Virgo, but yeah, often once you know your rising sign, you'll see that it's more accurate to read the rising signs horoscope. So you do need your time of birth, but often if you get a really good astrologer and, you know, get them for a birth chart reading, it's often possible to work it out, even if you don't know.
Really?
Can be, yeah. Like, especially if you know kind of like, oh, it was morning, and then, yeah, sometimes you can pretty much work it out.
Okay. This is good to know. Not really for me, but for my kids.
Yeah.
I feel so bad.
Yeah, look your kids up. It's good when you look your kids up.
Yeah, well, I need to work out what time they were born. I know roughly, but I don't know. Yeah. We now have this officially documented. This is Mum.
Yeah, okay. So you don't know what time they were born? You must know what time they were born.
The second 2. I know the first one. that it will rapidly deteriorate.
Yeah, I think you need to come up with a story and stick with it, Susie, because when I was asking my mum, like, so what time was it born? And she was like, I can't remember between you and your sister. I was like, this is child abuse. Yeah. This isn't okay.
The baby book's gone. The photograph of the moment of birth gone. I'm like, my God.
I need to know my rising sign.
I've been like this with my mum as well. I was like, my biological mum, what time? And she's given me a time. I asked her about 6 times. She gave me the same time every time, but there's a part of me that is suspicious about that time. I feel like she might have come up with the time and decided to stick with it. We will never know. We will never.
Yeah, but then that might also be your destiny to believe that you are that rising sign. I don't know. Like, maybe there's something you need in that.
How often? Because you do one-off readings for people, right?
I do. I don't do it very often because I'm very busy with writing books. And I do have an astrology book coming out in September, actually. September, I don't know what the exact date is, but that's an astrology almanac for 2024. So I'm quite busy with all of that. But I do sometimes offer like mini birth chart readings or tarot readings on my website. I try and do it once a month, but I haven't been able to do it for the last few months.
Well, busy's good. Busy doing what you want to do is good. Yes. And writing new books is incredible. So I was going to ask you, how often is it? When am I going to meet my love? What is my purpose? Are those the kind of key subjects that people want to know? Or is it just general? Tell me what's going on.
I think what is my purpose is always the biggest, definitely, especially for, the sort of demographic that want to come to me for a reading. It's a lot of, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? What's my path? Like, I used to think that I would be doing this by this age and I'm not. A lot of that. And astrology and tarot are both brilliant for that, because really all the answers that anyone needs are within them somewhere anyway. And it can just really help bring it out and help you work out what your next step is, basically.
My feeling is, because I use my angel cards a lot, I love Angels and Ancestors by Kyle Gray. My feeling is that after using them for a couple of years, that it doesn't really matter which card you pull, because depending on the lens that you are or the experience that you're in at the moment, that lens is going to colour your interpretation. And so it is just, for me, I suppose it's just an invitation to be intentional. I think that's, for me, when I use angel cards, that's what happens. I just get more intentional because I have to make up a story. What am I seeing and what does it mean to me today? And then that gets to influence my day. I suppose what I'm interested in is that how much does your lens influence the meanings people give, the cards that are pulled, or do you end up just asking great questions?
I think a bit of both. I think ask good questions, really actually genuinely listen to the answer, because so often in life people are used to having conversations where the person they're talking to isn't really listening to what they're saying. They're just kind of waiting to talk, waiting for their turn. So I think there's part of the magic of having a session like that is someone really listening to what you're trying to say, and then saying, well, this card suggests maybe this or this could be important to you. Does any of that resonate with you? And then taking the conversation off in that direction. And sometimes I do feel a bit like, mate, you probably could have done this without me, without these tarot cards. But I've offered you the space to do it. And sometimes you can pull a card and it can just be such a powerful, magical moment where often when this happens, I precede it by going, this is going to sound really weird, but this is what this card is, I think it's trying to tell you. And you'll just see a massive oh my God, absolutely, yes, I wasn't even going to mention that, but yeah, I've been thinking about, I don't know, getting a divorce or whatever. Sometimes it is really...
We are not going to be telling everybody to get a divorce if you come for your one-off readings with Emma, which are very limited.
No, not always, just sometimes. But sometimes. But that's the beauty of a card, because in a conversation, I wouldn't just say, "Oh, is anything going on in your personal life?" Or I wouldn't just try and drag that out of someone. If I've got a card that's showing me that that's a possible option among other possible options, because there are always other options, and I feel like it's the right situation to say it, sometimes it can start another conversation about, how you might take steps to make your life better or happier, or, not always about divorce. That was just the first thing that came into my head.
I'm not saying anything. Is it the using of the cards that have helped you develop your intuition, or have you used other tools that have helped you develop that over the years?
That is a good question. I think definitely cards is a big source of my ability to tune into my intuition. And also, I don't want to pretend that it's always been easy for me to tune into my intuition. I know I keep saying this, but there's a whole chapter on it, because often, people say, like, trust your intuition, trust your gut. And it's really hard to work out, because I also, I've suffered from anxiety at various points in my life. And so I've sometimes been like, but my gut's telling me the house is going to burn down and I've left the oven on and the door's open. But, you've got to learn to separate all these different voices, like the inner critic and the anxious voice, and find the true voice. So other things, the true inner voice. So other things I think that have really helped me tap into that are things like guided meditation, and what else do I really like for that? I think just journaling is another one that really, really helps me. Again, I think that makes sense to me because of the writing process. But yeah, I love a bit of free writing and then seeing what comes out. And you can find out a lot about yourself doing that.
100%. Not for a while, actually, but I went through a big phase of doing my morning pages. So Julia Cameron's technique of just first thing in the morning, write 3 pages. And it would be wild to me. I was actually just writing about this in my book, how I would do the morning pages practice, and then there would be something that would come up in the morning pages that would be surprising to me. So I would then take that and then specifically journal on that, tapping into my higher self. So ask the question and then see what the answer would be. And the way that I would be able to tell the difference between, is this me or is this my higher self, essence, however you want to talk about it, is that usually the answer would be super simple, and I wouldn't, normally the answer will be super simple. It is not wildly overcomplicated. The moment that I start kind of trying to negotiate with myself, I know that my mind has got involved and I'm just trying to logic my way into something that feels safe. Whereas when it feels like it's coming from beyond me or the higher part of me, it's like, and relax and let it go. And it's okay. Annoying, but accurate. Do you have any tips for anybody? And maybe it is pick yourself up. I was going to say, because my tool is angel cards, I think that they seem easier than tarot cards. Is that just because I'm not familiar with them?
No, I think there's definitely some truth in that. Like, there are less cards in an oracle deck, and often the meaning is written on them. Like, I would always describe oracle cards as kind of like tarot's sort of easy breezy little sister. So, yeah, I definitely... Light. Yeah, go for the oracle cards. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do anything. It's one of my core beliefs, do the things that work for you, try things. Like my entire mystical year was about trying different things and seeing what worked for me and what didn't, and then seeing what stayed with me and what hasn't. And I don't judge myself for not being a perfect spiritual being at all times. I just I use what I need. I've got a toolbox and I take out the tools I want to use at any given time.
You were saying before tech gremlins got involved about the separation of the different voices, the inner critic and anxiety and gut. How do you identify those different voices so that you are able to work out what is intuition versus what is me just being scared and trying to protect myself?
Yeah, I mean, practice makes perfect, I think, definitely with these things. Like, the more you try to tune into your intuition and the more you follow it, the more you'll realise the times when you didn't follow it, things don't work out quite as well. But also, again, in the book, one thing that I did when I was really right at the beginning of trying to get to grips with which is my intuition and which is all these other crazy voices that are driving me mad, a friend sort of talked me through like an exercise where I gave them personalities. So I gave my sort of inner critic, stressy nightmare voice, that was like a goblin in my mind, and then the intuition voice was like a magical talking moon. And so I could started to be able to hear the difference by giving them personalities.
So you had your year of mystical living in 2018. We then went into pandemic time. How did what you learned in 2018 impact your experience of 2020 and the pandemic?
Well, it definitely helped because I think I was in a much better place by 2020. Like, I was able to handle a pandemic, and, you know, I didn't have the most difficult ride during the pandemic, but I didn't have the easiest. You know, I was homeschooling young children. I had a husband who was working as a doctor in a hospital, so it was all quite full on for us, but not the worst. You know, we were lucky. We had a garden. But actually, the most interesting thing that happened in the pandemic, I mean, I would definitely say I had the tools to be able to cope and to help my children cope with what was going on, which I was very grateful for. But also what I had learned about kind of trusting the universe and like looking for signs and believing in a path that I was being shown really came into play, because it was actually during the pandemic that I had a very casual conversation with someone that ended up with me getting this book deal, basically, to write the book, A Year of Mystical Thinking. It was a pandemic book.
Amazing.
Yeah, and sometimes I kind of thank the pandemic for it a little bit, because life was so slow and quiet, I didn't have so much going on. I mean, apart from the crazy kid homeschooling thing, which was chaos. You know, instead of like going, oh yeah, maybe I'll send your brother who's an agent an email, I actually did send the brother who was an agent the email and got into the conversation. And yeah, the next thing I knew, I had a book happening.
That is incredible. And had you always wanted to work with Hay House?
I love Hay House books. I mean, I'd always wanted to write a book. I actually always wanted to write a novel. I never thought that my path would take me down a sort of non-fiction route, but actually the non-fiction I write is very narrative, so it's like a story. Yeah, so I loved Hay House. I didn't necessarily have them tipped as my kind of dream publisher or anything, but I really respected their work and really loved a lot of their books. And obviously, because I'd done the mystical year, half the books I'd read were Hay House books.
Yeah.
So that was quite funny when I was having all the meetings with them, and I was like, oh yeah, that's in my book. Yeah, that's in my book. Yeah.
And who is the next book with?
So the next book is an astrology almanac, and it's with Leaping Hare Press, which is part of Quarto, which again is another interesting one, because that they approached me. It wasn't like a proposal I put together. It just came to me, and I hadn't thought of writing an astrology book, but there I was writing an astrology book.
What is an almanac?
So an almanac is like a guide to the seasons. So basically, I think it comes from, you know, farming almanacs, which would be like, this is the best time to plant your corn or whatever. And, you know, there's a really successful one that's published that's really beautiful. Like, it gives you kind of a guide to the stars in January and what's in season, and what the tides are doing. It's really a really beautiful way of going through the year. So this is just the astrology version. So ultimately it takes you through 2024's astrology month by month in a kind of accessible, because that's always my thing, I don't want to make it too complicated, like in an easy to understand, inspiring, accessible way. It's going to be an excellent Christmas present.
Okay, got it. Note to self.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful book. Like, it's really nice hardback with like a little ribbon in it. It's really beautifully illustrated. So it's really like, I'm thinking I'm just going to get that for everyone I know for Christmas.
Well, good. Make sure you use your for discount, obviously.
I will.
How do you find the writing process? I know that you said like you enjoy it and you don't want to make it sound too easy. I feel like there's a difference between writing articles and writing a book.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy it, and I don't want to make it sound too easy, because I cannot tell you how often it is like getting blood out of a stone trying to write. It's like, sometimes I hear these stories of people who are like, and then my whole book just came to me overnight, and I'd written it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, go
away.
But I'm very particular about my writing. Like, I like to create like a feeling in the words, and I don't know, maybe I'm just a bit too fussy. But the writing process, I mean, I love it and I hate it. Show me someone who doesn't love it and hate it, and I'll tell you they're not a real writer.
She said it here. She said it here first. No, I hear you. Obviously, the release of the book is something that you're excited about. When you think about the next 12 months, what else is kind of making you feel all zhuzhy?
Well, I've got a very superficial answer and a less superficial one. I mean, I'm very excited about writing a follow-up book to A Year of Mystical Thinking. So
Yay.
That's something that I'm working on the proposal, and I started off with one idea and it's morphed into another idea that I'm really excited about, which is a bit to do with time and seasons, and so I'm really looking forward to getting into that. And more superficially, also just so I can manifest it, I'm really looking forward to going to see Taylor Swift at the Eras Tour when I get tickets in the pre-sale for my children, who will kill me if I don't get the tickets. So that is something I'm looking forward to in the next 12 months.
Can I just say, I just went to see Beyonce, and I had the time of my life.
Oh, that's so nice.
It was so incredible. I went on my own. And I had my party dress on, and I sang, and I cried, and I took video, and I felt deeply connected. And the thing that I loved about it was, I don't think I've ever been to an event where I've seen such a diverse crowd outside of like being at Pride. And it was a real, I love my outfits. I did a whole thing on Facebook, like, what should I wear? And got everybody to help me pick. And it was a thing. I went and I was like, I'm underdressed. Like, everybody, like, came out. And I was just like, wow, what I appreciate outside of the music and outside of the event is that she gives people permission to show up in their fullest, their brightest, their shiniest selves. Like, people want, even though there's like 30,000 people in the stadium, they're like, I've got my best boots on just in case Beyonce sees them. And I'm like, it was such a glorious celebration. I loved it. So for me, I don't feel that Taylor Swift is a superficial. I
certainly don't think she's superficial. I'm just like, maybe, I'm just basically like, can I manifest some tour tickets?
I think that's great. I'm like that for Glastonbury. I'll be there in a caravan.
Yeah, Glastonbury would be good too. Yeah, I took the kids to see Harry Styles recently, and that was also pretty magical. Like, it was a lot of like feather boas and heart-shaped sunglasses, and it was just really sweet and lovely.
I feel that there's a real Bowie thing with him. Like, when I look at some of the old footage, I really feel like he is traversing that kind of line. And I like it. It's cool.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so hopefully that will happen, and cross your fingers, because there's a lot of angst in this house over those tickets. We have to see Taylor or we will die.
Oh, okay, wow. It's extreme. I'm not that into Taylor, so, hopefully my girls will still be into Beyonce the next time she comes around.
You can twist it in that direction for sure.
I will use my influence. So I've got a couple of questions for you that I ask everybody. And the first is, what does infinite receiving mean to you?
So I thought about this because I thought this is the only thing I could remember that you might ask. And I was thinking that really what I think infinite receiving is about being open to alternatives. So I think there's, this kind of idea of like receiving, and this idea is about manifestation and like going after what you want. And when that becomes quite rigid, you lose other options, you lose all the other branches that you might be able to go in. And so I think there's a lot of power in being open to paths that appear in front of you and doing things maybe even when you don't necessarily feel like you're ready yet, and not allowing yourself to get stuck, and just, it is more infinite to allow other possibilities into your life and maybe give things a chance, even if it's not necessarily exactly how you thought it was going to be.
1000%. And I feel like that is the message of infinite receiving. We're all infinite receivers. We're all receiving all of the time. There's a difference between us doing it consciously and unconsciously. But even when you find yourself in a situation that it isn't what you planned, there's beauty, there's gold, there's magic, there's gifts, there's learnings to be extracted from every situation. So, gold tick.
Thank you. I'd like to get a gold tick.
Are you good at being an infinite receiver? I mean, I just said we're all infinite receivers, but I'm interested in your perspective.
I think I've become good. I don't think I necessarily have naturally always been good, because I do think I have like a real perfectionist side, which has probably stopped me from doing things in the past because I didn't think I was ready, or I didn't think I was good enough, or I didn't think anyone would be interested in what I had to say. Whereas I think, since I've kind of had this mystical journey and spiritual journey and found new ways of dealing with the world that I find myself in a more kind of positive, exciting way, I'm much more open to things now. So things like saying yes when someone says, what do you think about writing an astrology book? Which, I could be like, oh, I don't know if I should. I don't know, that wasn't my plan. I was meant to be doing the follow-up to a year of mystical thinking, but I was like, I'm being offered this for a reason, and writing horoscopes that are going to get translated into Korean. That feels really exciting to me, and I don't know where that's going to lead, but I'm already like, we need to go to a Korean restaurant. We need to do this. We need to get into K-pop. So I'm like, and I'm really excited about where that could lead, because that's really interesting, and maybe I'm going to discover a whole culture that's fascinating that maybe I haven't paid as much attention to as I should have done. And why is the universe sending me that I'm interested in that?
I have got a programme for you that my kids have been watching. It's set in South Korea. It's an American girl goes over to South Korea. It's called Kitty XO.
Okay.
Your girls are like 14 and 12, aren't they? So I think that it's bang on the money still for your 12-year-old.
Okay, written down.
Check that out. It's about love and boys and girls and all of the things, but totally on the K-pop vibe. One of the pillars of infinite receiving is the pillar of infinite love, and I am curious, where or who in your life right now could you allow people to love you more?
I don't know if I know the answer to that. Where or how could I allow people to love me more? I mean, I'm definitely going through a bit of I need to put myself out there more, but like I'm kind of a bit scared. I pulled this card, so I did like oracle cards for New Year, and I got the full moon in Leo, which is all about like, you know, Leo's ruled by the sun, and Leo's like sort of putting yourself out there and stepping into the spotlight. And yeah, people keep saying things to me like, start a podcast, do this, do that, and I'm like, I just want to hide behind my laptop forever and, you know, not put myself out there. So maybe I could allow people to love me in that way. I don't know, that seems a bit weird. Maybe, yeah, that just came into my head. But yeah, I find that's something I do still find quite difficult. It doesn't, to me, being all like, here I am, it's me, you must all be so interested in what I have to say, doesn't come very naturally. I find that quite hard.
Yeah, from an infinite receiving perspective, the more you're able to trust that what you have to say through your unique lens is really fucking interesting and really valuable, the more you can receive. And I think that it is super vulnerable when you put your work out, and when you stand next to your work. It's easier when you put the work out and allow the work to do the thing. But as you say, in this day and age, we have to stand next to our work. It makes a difference. And so, yeah, it
does make a difference, and it's quite hard to do. I don't know, sometimes I'm a bit like, is there not another way to do this? Like, I don't know, like a body double or something.
I mean, in a world of possibilities, that is absolutely possible. But I don't know whether you get the most out of that.
I'll just be at home in my pajamas, like typing, and someone else can like go and meet all the people and talk about themselves. Yeah,
be a sidebot for you.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a big challenge that I've got to like get through at some point.
Well, this next question is going to support you in moving through that, because I want to know, what is your greatest attribute?
Oh, okay. Oh, these questions are hard. My greatest attribute. Am I allowed to say my ability to like write good sentences? Is that an attribute? What's an attribute?
I think it's a skill. Yeah,
it's a skill. Yeah, it's not really an attribute, is it? I mean, yeah. I think really probably my greatest attribute that's probably connected to the writing is have an ability to understand how other people think and feel. Sometimes that sounds a bit big-headed.
Oh look, this is so interesting. So interesting. God, I love the way you are not the. I want to reassure you. You are not the only person who kind of like squirms at these questions.
Yeah.
But this is the whole part of it. Like knowing your unique greatness. When you know it and you can own it, is when it makes it easier for other people to know it and own it. And whilst we don't need to do this for other people, like, it does all start with us first. And there is such... And I think... So this is my little take on this. The reason that we find it hard to say, I am great at this, and I love myself because I do that, is because there's this kind of warped idea that when we do that, we diminish other people, or because other people aren't doing it, like, are we allowed to do it? My thing is that when we do it, we give other people permission to do it. Like, we get to be the model. It's like the idea of your girls being like, I'm not allowed to say that I'm great at this. It's like, when I think about that for my kids, I'm like, God, I want you to know how amazing you are, and I want you to be like, I say to Aluna, like, are you loving yourself now? And she's like, yeah. And I said, I'd love myself if I were you too.
Oh, sweet.
I get to love myself because I love myself. You know, it's that type of conversation. I want that to be... I want that to just be normal.
Yeah. I think that's really, I mean, I definitely, of course, that's what you want for your kids, and I don't know why it's so hard to want it for yourself. But I think that's what I'm good at. I'm good at sort of understanding how people feel and capturing that on paper so you can read about it. And I'm good at writing about how life feels sometimes. And I'm quite good at spotting trends. I'm good at tapping into a zeitgeist. It's always been a key skill.
What's coming? What's happening next?
Oh, well, this might be wishful thinking on my part, but I think this whole idea of the kind of influencer culture, I feel like the bell's ringing. It's like, something more authentic and less salesy, I think, is coming. I think people are bored of it now.
Well, I think what's interesting is it's authenticity that I think that people desire, and realness. And I think that the influencer culture has been massively supported by platforms like Instagram, where you get to show the highlight, and there's a realness that people desire. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and it's good having having young kids / teenage kids is really good for that as well, because you can see how things are coming through for them, and they're not using filters. They're like, filters are so embarrassing. Like, they're just like, no, like, just be yourself.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's you and your parenting. I think that's good.
No, because I quite often have got one of the filters out and they're like, Mum, you're so embarrassing. No one uses filters anymore. It's definitely not me. It's all them.
You kind of answered this question before, but I wonder if there's anything else. What are you consciously working on manifesting right now, aside from Taylor Swift tickets?
I was literally about to say again, Taylor Swift tickets. Taylor Swift tickets. That's all I care about. If we'd done this interview like in a few weeks' time when I had them, I wouldn't have had to mention it. I think I'm. Yeah, I think I'm. Is this what I'm trying to manifest? I mean, I really want to create a life that's a bit less hectic than the one I'm living in right now. Like, I'm really lucky, and loads of wonderful opportunities are coming my way, and I absolutely love it. And my life's busy, and my kids are busy, and I'm driving them all over the place, and I love it. But I also have this vision. Okay, I can see it really clearly, and it's me. Possibly alone. And I'm on a beach. And no kids. Yeah, I'm probably not going to get divorced, but I'm definitely on my own. I'm definitely on a beach, and it's definitely somewhere far away and sunny, and I'm doing loads of yoga, and I'm eating like amazing, delicious food that I haven't cooked myself. And I don't know whether that's just like a fantasy. It might be, but I feel like that's going to happen. Like, I'm trying to manifest a path towards a life where I spend a good chunk of time just on a beautiful beach.
The thing is, I think that all manifestations start off as fantasies. They're all just all ideas that you turn into your reality. It doesn't sound so far-fetched to me.
No, and actually, I think it probably is going to happen in some way. I can really see it. I kind of know it's going to happen. I just don't know how I get there or where it is. I might become a digital nomad once my children leave home.
I'm going to Colombia in a couple of weeks. There's no beach there,
nice.
It will be nice.
It'll still be nice.
It will be glorious.
It will.
So excited. Okay,
Amazing.
My last question for you is, where can you allow yourself to be more supported in your life right now?
I don't know, really. I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
So I'm going to ask you, because you said it, in your quest for creating a less hectic life, is there anywhere right now that you can think of that actually you could ask for more help with, even if you don't know who, but is there anywhere?
I mean, I'm pretty lucky. I do have a lot of help and a lot of supportive people in my life. Do you know what I think I think I can support myself by saying no to a few things. So, and actually that's something I was thinking about this morning. I won't say what it is, but I've thought of something that I'm going to say no to.
No, say it. Say it.
I can't say it. But I've thought of a couple of things that I'm going to say no to, or I'm going to put off for a bit, like a timing. I think timing's really important, and having children is a very humbling experience, and it does make you realise that you can't do everything. And I've always had this sense, that they're two most important people to me, making sure that they have a wonderful life, and I don't want to lose sight of that just because they're getting older and fill my life with endless work and things that I have to do because, they're going to be out of here in a few years. So I think I need to sort of reassess a few priorities maybe. So I'm going to support myself by saying no when I'm a people pleaser who wants to say yes to everything.
Yeah, saying no when you mean no and yes when you mean yes is absolutely revolutionary.
Definitely.
Right, well, this has been an absolute joy chatting with you today. Can you please share with everybody where they can get your books, find you online, do your thing? Where do you love to hang out?
Yes, so I've got a shiny new website, emmahowarth.com, and you can find me on Instagram. That's where I am most. Emma Howarth Writes. I am also on stuff like TikTok, but I think there's like a fake me on TikTok who has more followers than me. So, yeah, don't follow the fake me, follow the one with no followers. So Emma Howarth Writes, Instagram, emmahowarth.com. Books are, in all the usual places, A Year of Mystical Thinking and The Astrology Almanac, which is coming out in September. That's available to pre-order. So,
amazing. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. I hope that you have loved this episode. And if you have, do me a favour, tag me on Instagram, tag Emma on Instagram, share this with a friend. And remember that faith plus action equals miracles.
Thank you for listening to Infinite Receiving with me, Susie Ashworth. I'd love to share with you my Infinite Receiving activation audio. Go to susieashworth.com/activate infinite receiving.